Hey, Eagles fans! The atmosphere is heating up behind the scenes in Philadelphia. And there's a lot to unpack right now as the Eagles quietly shape what could be a defining offseason. We all know the goal hasn't changed. This team wants to get back to the Super Bowl, and everything Howie Roseman has done so far points directly toward that mission. But here's the thing. The path back isn't just about big splashes. It's about calculated, smart, sometimes uncomfortable decisions. And that's exactly what we're starting to see unfold. But before we go any further, make sure you've already hit that like button if you've been an Eagles fan for over 20 years. It's always great seeing fans from every generation here. And if you can, drop this in the comments. Go Eagles! My heart bleeds green. Now, let's get straight into what's really happening. The Eagles kicked off this phase of the offseason by locking down Jordan Davis, and this move says a lot more than people realize. A 3-year, $78 million extension with $65 million guaranteed makes him the highest-paid nose tackle in the NFL. That's not just a reward, that's a statement. It tells you that Vic Fangio's defensive vision is going to continue leaning heavily on interior dominance. But here's where things get interesting. If Jordan Davis is getting that kind of money, what does that mean for Jalen Carter down the line? Because internally, there's a growing belief that Carter might actually be the more impactful player. And if that's true, his price tag could be even higher. At the same time, the Eagles made a very intriguing move in the secondary by bringing in Rick Woolen on a 1-year deal worth up to $15 million with a very manageable cap hit for 2026. This is a classic Howie Roseman move. Low risk, high upside. Woolen steps in as an outside corner opposite Quinyon Mitchell, while Cooper DeJean continues to be part of that evolving defensive backfield. Add in veteran Jonathan Jones for depth, and suddenly the secondary has a mix of youth, length, and experience that could quietly become a strength. And don't overlook the addition of Arnold Ebiketie either. 1 year, $7, $3 million. And this is the type of under-the-radar signing Eagles fans have seen turn into something bigger. He's not a full-time starter, but his pressure rates and ability to disrupt quarterbacks make him a perfect rotational piece in this system. It's very similar to what the team tried to do last year, but this time it feels more refined, more intentional. Offensively, keeping Dallas Goedert on a 1-year deal was another key decision. Stability matters, especially when you're trying to maintain continuity for Jalen Hurts. And adding a speed element like Marquise Brown gives this offense another layer, something that could open up space in ways we didn't consistently see last season. There's also the Andy Dalton move, which might not grab headlines, but it gives the Eagles flexibility at quarterback depth, depending on what happens with Tanner McKee. Now, here's where things really shift toward the draft. Because despite all these moves, there are still clear needs on this roster. The biggest one? Offensive line. And if you've followed this team over the years, you already know how this story goes. The Eagles don't wait until it's a problem. They get ahead of it. With the 23rd overall pick, there's a strong expectation that Howie Roseman targets the trenches again, especially considering how expensive offensive linemen have become in free agency. Names like Caden Proctor out of Alabama immediately jump out. A massive presence at 6'7", 360 pounds, with the kind of raw power that can completely engulf defenders. But there are questions about consistency, conditioning, and technique. Then there's Blake Miller from Clemson, a more polished right tackle with 54 career starts, and the kind of athleticism that could make him a long-term successor to Lane Johnson. That's not a small projection. That's a potential franchise-altering one. And then you have players like Max Iheanacho, who only started playing football in 2021 but has skyrocketed thanks to elite athletic traits, and Vega Ioane from Penn State, a guard who hasn't allowed a sack in 2 years and brings a physical, aggressive style that Eagles fans would absolutely love. The message here is clear. The Eagles are building for sustainability, not just immediate impact. But don't rule out another direction either. Edge rusher remains very much in play. Prospects like Akeem Messidor, Keldrick Falk, Malachi Lawrence, and Danny Dennis Sutton all bring different profiles, from production to athletic upside. And in a Fangio defense, having waves of pass rushers isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. And then there's the wildcard scenario, wide receiver. Because if, and it's still a big if, something happens involving A.J. Brown, suddenly that becomes a priority. Players like Casey Concepcion, Omarion Cooper Jr., and Denzel Boston offer different skill sets, from explosive playmaking to physical boundary presence. Each one could reshape how this offense looks moving forward. So as we sit here today, with the draft approaching and the roster still evolving, the Eagles are in a fascinating position. They've added talent, they've reinforced key areas, but they've also left the door open for a major move depending on how the board falls. And that brings me to you. With everything we're seeing right now, the contracts, the signings, the remaining needs, and the 23rd overall pick, what do you think the Eagles should do in the first round of the draft? And this is where things get even more interesting. Because the deeper you look into this situation, the clearer it becomes that the Eagles are setting themselves up for multiple scenarios, not just one fixed plan. When you evaluate Howie Roseman's approach so far, it's not just about filling holes, it's about creating flexibility. The kind of flexibility that allows the Eagles to react in real time when they're on the clock at pick 23. And that matters more than ever this year because the board could fall in a lot of different ways. Take the offensive line situation, for example. There's a real possibility that one of those top-tier linemen slips. If a player like Blake Miller is sitting there, with his experience, athleticism, and potential to eventually replace Lane Johnson, that's the kind of move that doesn't just help now, it secures the future of the franchise. And the Eagles have always valued that kind of long-term thinking. At the same time, you can't ignore what's happening defensively. Even after adding Arnold Ebiketie, there's still a need for more consistent pressure off the edge. And in today's NFL, if you can't get to the quarterback, it doesn't matter how strong the rest of your defense is. That's why prospects like Malachi Lawrence or Danny Dennis Sutton become so intriguing. They bring explosiveness, they bring upside, and most importantly, they fit the identity this defense is trying to build. Now, let's talk about something that a lot of fans are watching very closely: the offensive weapons. Because while the addition of Marquise Brown adds speed, there are still questions about the long-term structure of this receiving core. And if anything unexpected happens, especially involving A.J. Brown, the Eagles need to be ready. That's where players like Omarion Cooper Jr. stand out. His production, his reliability with just 5 drops over 3 years, and his ability to create after the catch make him a very appealing option. He's the kind of player who can step in and contribute right away, but also grow into a bigger role over time. And then there's Casey Concepcion, one of the most dynamic playmakers in this class. The explosiveness, the route-running versatility, it's all there. The only concern has been the drops, which showed up consistently over the last few seasons. But if that gets cleaned up, you're looking at a player who could become a serious weapon at the next level. Even at tight end, the Eagles are quietly exploring the future. Dallas Goedert is back, yes, but on a 1-year deal. That's not a long-term guarantee. So when you see a prospect like Kenyon Sadi, who ran a 4.39 40-yard dash, the fastest ever for a tight end at the Combine, you start to understand the bigger picture. This team is thinking ahead. Always. And that's really the theme of everything we're seeing right now. Nothing is accidental. Every signing, every contract, every reported interest in a draft prospect, it all connects. The Eagles are building layers, depth, competition, insurance, upside. They're preparing for the season ahead, but they're also protecting themselves against what might happen a year from now. And that's why this upcoming draft feels so important. Because depending on how things fall, this could be the moment where the Eagles either reinforce their foundation or make a bold move that changes the direction of the roster entirely. So now it all comes down to execution. Howie Roseman has positioned this team well. The board will tell the rest of the story. Now before you go, make sure you subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and don't forget to click on the video that's on your screen right now. If you want to stay updated with everything happening around the Philadelphia Eagles, this is the place to be. Because the latest news, analysis, and behind-the-scenes insights, you'll only find it here. Go, Eagles!